I am Dr. G. Do you know what happens inside the uterus? I'm a practicing maternal-fetal medicine specialist for the past 17 years. For the next 15 minutes, allow me to share with you what I experience in the ultrasound room every day. Life developing in the uterus.
I'm an obstetrician, which means I care for women who are pregnant, and I help them get through their entire pregnancy from beginning to end. And a lot of what I do is based on ultrasound. I make sure the babies look okay, they're healthy. So I get to see babies in the uterus develop. Now, before you build a house, you need blueprints. Okay? I counsel patients on this all the time. They come to me when they're older in age, there's a higher risk that the baby might have genetic problems, and we talk about the programming of the baby. Any living organism has blueprints, and that's the DNA encoding. Chromosomes are the programming for the human body. Every cell that has a nucleus contains DNA, right? It's in the form of chromosome, which is compacted DNA. So the chromosomes, when you unravel them and you open them, it's like a slinky that just opens up, and then you have your DNA strand. So this is a picture of a normal human karyotype. A karyotype is the total amount of chromosomes that we have in every cell that has a nucleus in our body. What is normal, what we expect to have, is 2 of each number. 2 of number 1, 2 of number 2, number 3, and so on, so on. Now, if you're a girl, you have 2 X's. If you're a boy, you have an X and a Y. Now, you get 1 of each from mom, you get 1 of each from dad, and then it pairs up in that little fertilized egg. That's the programming for that egg to know how to build the body. So depending on how the fertilized egg is programmed, it will develop. It's nothing we have control over. Egg is right there, the sperm, they unite, you get 23 chromosomes from dad, 23 chromosomes from mom, and then the child receives 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs, okay? A totally separate, unique DNA set, because you have half of mom, half of dad, you are unique.
This is Dr. G. Did you know? Watch that diaphragm move. When the baby inhales, it moves down. When the baby exhales, it moves back up.
But why do they practice how to breathe? Well, they have to know what to do when they come out. You don't just pop out and I can breathe, right? But they actually have to practice very early. So between 4 and 7 weeks of pregnancy, the embryonic lung tree has to start dividing. Imagine a tree. You flip it upside down, and you're shaping your lung. So between 7 and 12 weeks, these babies start to inhale amniotic fluid because they need that fluid pressure to push on that bud right here to help it with pressure start to branch and literally shape the lung of the baby. You'll have the main trunk of the tree as the trachea and then the bronchi. And then it divides into the bronchioles and everything else. And by the time you get to the very end, you've got the alveoli, the leaves. So if a baby early on, between here and here, for some reason doesn't have amniotic fluid, which is the fluid inside the amniotic cavity, if there's no amniotic fluid, either mom broke her water early and it leaked out, or the baby wasn't shaped with kidneys, and the baby wasn't able to produce urine, which then baby pees, creates its own amniotic fluid, which is very clean and sterile. It's the way we were made. But if there's no amniotic fluid, they can't shape their lungs. So they can live when they're in the utero because mom feeds the baby. But once they're born, they won't have lungs to survive. So truly, amniotic fluid, in my opinion, is the liquid, the water of life.
Watch the hand of the baby touching that lower lip, and that will trigger a suck reflex to kick in. The baby will open the mouth
The tongue will move, and then the baby swallows. So the dark bubble that you see, which is below that diaphragm line, is the baby's stomach. The baby swallowed the amniotic fluid. The fluid went past the throat, through the esophagus, down to the stomach. The baby needs to practice how to do this so it knows what to do when it swallows milk.
Do you know babies hiccup in the uterus? So sometimes moms feel this repetitive, sudden, like we do when we hiccup. As the baby swallows and that stomach fills, it can hit the diaphragm and trigger hiccups. This happens to newborn babies when they drink milk, and you'll see the hiccup response. So it's actually a good sign for you to feel your baby hiccup, because that means the nervous system's developing well, the pulmonary system's developing well, because the diaphragm is reacting properly. As they suck their fingers, or when they swallow amniotic fluid, their stomach fills, and then that can hit the diaphragm and reflexively cause a hiccup. So hiccups are good. When babies hiccup, it tells us that they're receiving enough oxygen from the placenta, from the mom, and their nervous system, from the brain to the spinal cord to the nerves, which in this case it's the phrenic nerve going to the diaphragm, they're developing properly.
This is Dr. G. Did you know?
When you fully inhale that amniotic fluid with a yawn, when you're small, 23 weeks, 24 weeks, you're full to capacity filling up your lungs. And then you're expanding it so you can build full capacity lungs. And then by the time they got to 36 weeks, they hardly ever saw them yawn, which means they built their lungs and they don't need that huge inhalation anymore.
I have seen this many times. They open their mouth wide, and hold it like that for 3 to 5 seconds or even longer. Then close their mouth slowly. It is so cute. They yawn quite often. Researchers at Dunham University actually studied fetal yawning patterns back in 2012, and they found that fetuses at 24 weeks gestation yawned about twice every 2 minutes, and by the time they reached 36 weeks, they didn't catch them yawning anymore. But why do we yawn? We still don't know for sure. One recent theory states that a yawn may increase blood flow to the brain. This probably comes from the explanation that when we inhale, our heart rate increases. Thus, we send oxygen and blood faster to our brain and body. Then as we exhale, our heart rate slows back down. This is why performance athletes train on how to breathe. It may also help babies in utero send more oxygen to their developing brain and body during fetal life. So what happens to us when we yawn? Many parts of the body are in action. First, our mouth opens. Our jaw drops, allowing as much air as possible to be taken in. When we inhale, the air is taken in to fill our lungs. The abdominal muscles flex. Our diaphragm is pushed down, thus exercised. The air we breathe in expands the lungs to capacity, and then some of the air is blown back out. But in the uterus, a baby will be taking in a full inhalation of amniotic fluid instead of air. The fetal yawn will thus expand the fetal lungs to capacity while also exercising the diaphragm to capacity. This full expansion of the lungs may have some assistance with actual fetal lung development during the entire second and early third trimester of gestation. We have seen that babies practice breathing while in the uterus, and now we know that a yawn will stretch out the lungs to full capacity by fully filling and expanding them. This is Dr. G. Did you know? The musculoskeletal development of an embryo begins very early. Limb buds begin to develop in the 4th week of embryonic life, which is the 6th week of gestational age as we count it during prenatal care. Then, The bony precursor tissue, which is the beginning of the bones, starts to form a week later. The upper limbs form first and then the lower limbs. Normal fetal movement starts between 7 and 8 weeks of gestation, and it's very important for the development of our joints. Interestingly, the Journal of Anatomy, published in August of 2018, reported that almost all adult skeletal muscles of the trunk and limbs could be individually identified in their relative adult position in an 8-week embryo. Fetal movement in the uterus is very important to continue to grow and develop the muscle tissue and to build the muscle bundles. In this image, you can see the upper arm of a 19-week baby, which is taken during the routine second trimester anatomic ultrasound. You can identify the deltoid muscle in the shoulder area, the biceps, the triceps. This baby has been moving, pushing against the amniotic fluid. Imagine you are doing a water aerobics class to exercise your muscles. This baby is only in its first trimester at 12 weeks. We can already see he is also pushing against the mother's uterine wall.
Look at this baby kick. Look at them. Look at the baby just push against the uterus right here. Oh my goodness. I have to try and keep up. Look at that beautiful, look at pushing off just like a runner. Pushing off. Look at beautiful gastrocnemius, the little calf over there. Good stretch, good push. Oh my, look at the thighs and lift. That was a good lift.
Picture yourself being at the gym doing a set of bench presses, or when you jump rope to push against the floor and gravity. Well, in order to build and develop their muscles. Babies do that in the uterus from first trimester onward.
So now that you know what I see, you know that babies practice how to breathe, they hiccup, they swallow, they move, they yawn. Share with others. It's really easy to start the conversation. Just ask, did you know?